Hello, it's Brad Laurie, and today I'm honoured to speak with Unibright once again. We have one of the core members of Unibright. His name is Ruud Huisman. Ruud, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Hello, Brad. Thanks for your time, and yeah, glad to be joining.
Likewise, mate. So for those who aren't familiar with Unibright, this is designed to be an update. It's allowing you a chance to hear from one of the core members we haven't spoken to yet. We have spoken to the CEO and the CTO once before. So Ruud, it's great that you have come on board to really let us know. So let's start a bit with what is this unified framework of blockchain business integration? Mouthful. Let's break it down. Tell us in your own words, what is Unibright?
I like to see it a little bit as a tool set that enterprises can use if they want to integrate blockchain into their current IT system. So it's a very easy to use dashboard, for example, and they can start creating a workflow, like a visual workflow, and with that workflow, they can create smart contracts by that workflow. And it's a full business management process system, so they can see in real time everything that's happening throughout the whole process. So whether they have SAP or any other ERP system, they can connect that system by any other blockchain, and that's what we call blockchain agnostic. So we have different blockchains that we can work with, and we can work with any ERP system.
Right, got it. So let's break it down a bit for those who perhaps aren't so familiar with blockchain, with the terminology. Now, there's discussions about blockchains and there's discussions about services. We call them SaaS models. So talk us through where you fit in this continuum.
It's software as a service, I would say that. And okay. It's basically people log into our framework. It's a website that they can use, and that's what I did like a couple of weeks ago. I was at the Hague University of Applied Sciences. And I gave a little workshop, and people had their laptops with them. And I just gave them a specific order, and I told them, okay, go to this website, log in, register please over here, and this is how you do it. And it's a little click and drag system. And that's one of the reasons why I sent you this video, and I think you've seen it on Twitter once.
Yes, I have.
And he created this awesome video, which is a 3-minute video. And I would love it if we can show that, because it shows people on how easy it is to use a framework, and that anybody can do that. And that's also one thing that I hope to get out of this talk, to ask people, please go to a website and start using our framework and start creating your first smart contracts. And
right. I think that's a really good point. And what I'll do as well, Ruud, is I'll put it down below in the description. Now, Ruud, that's important because obviously the value in terms of explaining how to use the interface is really important, because you are a service essentially. You know, you're that service model, that you are the software most importantly, not a blockchain per se. Yes. But let's break it down a little bit more. So you're a software, you have an interface, you're well known for demonstrating this already. Your leader, the CEO and the CTO have demonstrated this before in clear and articulate YouTubes and with other members of the YouTube space as well, including myself. So how easy is it to use your interface? How simple is it? And what's the feedback been?
Well, it is very easy. Like I said, it took the students 20 minutes, and those students all had no coding experience. Mm-hmm. So it basically was me explaining them how to use it. I gave them examples. I showed them a little sheet. And I think it took most of them about 20 minutes before they could actually see the smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. So they could look at the end when all the process is approved. You can actually go to Etherscan, and you can actually see like the smart contract you literally created in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And there's actually an application on the website as well. There's, as soon as you start creating, or you create like a visual workflow and you publish it, you can see exactly the code that you created. And obviously it's a whole list of Solidity code, or it's EOS code. And it's interesting to see that in some like drag and click system that you just created something which is a list like this in Ethereum code. And that's just interesting. You can do that in 20 minutes. And that's right. Something that I thought, because the whole process, how I got into the Hague University, is something I can talk about later. But
yeah,
it was something
It's interesting because I saw you actually with Data Dash. You were involved in presenting at The Hague. You've also done classes. I've seen several tweets of you doing that. Now, what's interesting about those students, as you said, you don't need that very finite blockchain-based developer knowledge. We know there are several developing languages out there specific to blockchain, and perhaps there are other developing languages that really are quite conducive of utilizing it, but you don't need it. You could use generic knowledge of tech, or perhaps not even be a techie per se, but you can still use this really simple technology.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like, blockchain should be easy to use. I mean, right now, I'm not going to name the websites, but everybody knows if they want to build a website, there's applications for that. They can just go to a certain website, they start designing a little bit for themselves. And that's something that 15 years ago, people get like 100K a year for, just to be able to design websites. And right now, if you're a blockchain developer, you can get like 150K a year because you're a blockchain developer and you don't even know what quality you get. And one of our ambassadors calculated that in the future, medium-sized companies will need at least 3 blockchain developers at each company, and they don't have that right now. So how would it be if you have a solution right now that's basically somebody from a production department can log in, create their own smart contract, and the whole company can actually see whatever's happening, the whole process of going on the blockchain and all the approval sets being approved.
Right, and it makes a lot of sense, because obviously you want to make it so that it's seamless, and that essentially you have a greater number of developers in the future who can go and enable for this ecosystem to prosper into the mainstream. So that's what you're doing through the Hague and other.
We'll see in the future, but for companies that cannot afford developers, this might be an interesting solution to go to take the first step into using blockchain.
Right. Well, what about? Sure. Sorry. Go ahead.
Because still, the thing is, if you have a blockchain developer working at your company, he's still writing a language that nobody else understands. So how good would it be if you have a dashboard that everybody can understand and can just log into and see the whole process as it happens?
Right, exactly. So in real time as well. Now, what about the reasons behind why it exists? Because obviously we talk about in other interviews and we hear enough of the problems. We know the general ones. We don't need to go there. But specifically, why Unibright? Why do we even need to have a solution to benefit people right now, especially in the enterprise sector?
Yeah. Well, first, the question we could be asking is, why is blockchain needed? And obviously the people that choose Unibright, they know why they want to make use of blockchain, because it makes sense. And the whole framework was initially designed for people that understand blockchain, why they want to use blockchain and start using it. And they choose one of our templates like batch tracing, multi-party approval, or asset lifecycle management, because they need that specific use case. Now, obviously what happens right now is a lot of companies that want to use blockchain, but they're not quite sure how to use it. And that's why we set up this Unibright Solutions website, where companies actually can ask for consulting by Unibright. And that's why we start helping them a little bit more. But
and that's where the integration from the title comes into this, because you're helping them integrate into a new system.
We're helping them integrate into the current system. And that's the most important thing, because we find out companies that want to use a blockchain, they're not going to get rid of their old system and just start using blockchain right away. No, they need a system that can integrate with their current IT system. And it doesn't matter which IT system they use. It's like, they call it enterprise resource planning. And every company has their own system, like SAP, we call it SAP in Holland, or you have Oracle. And it's the whole system that the company, it's a centralized system that they use. And if they want to use blockchain, why not have a simple solution like Unibright, which can connect those systems, any system, to any blockchain?
Right, and it makes a lot of sense, you know, and so essentially you become a hub service, a software hub for those who perhaps don't want to go and build their own technology, go and do the same thing, but want to make it easy for themselves. But you're really also about optimizing, as you said, a transition into blockchain technology, into the possibilities, but within the context of their own company themselves. Because obviously these companies doing the consultancy or engaging with you with the consultancy service, they are companies.
They are companies, yeah. And they're still struggling because blockchain has become a hype word. And obviously, and a lot of companies want to use blockchain, but there's still, and you and I both know how difficult it is for people to start, when they start studying blockchain, how difficult it is to start understanding. And that's a talk that I had yesterday because I was at the crypto meetup in Holland. And I talked to a couple of guys, and basically if somebody with an economic background starts studying blockchain, he knows a lot about economy, but he doesn't really know specifically that much about finance or cryptography. And blockchain is a combination of all those things. So what you get is people from finance, they don't really believe in blockchain because they believe it's just a virtual coin. And maybe people in finance are not really well known with the idea how difficult it is to have a double spending solution. Right. That's what Bitcoin solves. So you need to be educated on numerous levels to start understanding what blockchain is, and then how you can implement it in your current company. Right,
and it makes a lot of sense. But let's pull it back to that number one reason for many companies to do anything, whether that be engage with a consultancy to embed this new technology into their system, and that is money. That's cost savings, that's efficiency, productivity. So there's the big question right there. When they go to you, no doubt they're expecting that to be enabled at some point. So what do you say, through the consultancy process to these people when they say, look, we need your help, we want to have better outcomes, can you do it, and how long will it take?
That will be very difficult to say. That's the same as like in 1995, if a company would say, okay, I'm going to build a website, I'm going to use more internet. How long will it take before it gives me profit? It's very difficult to say. You just only know at a certain time that all these companies that started building websites, it's something that they all had to do. So right now it's the same story with blockchain. Can we make a calculation on how much money they save in the future? No, they have to make an investment right now. And they have to start, if they are convinced that blockchain technology is something that helps them in the future, they will start using that. And we offer this solution, Unibright, for companies that want to start doing that. But it's difficult to make a calculation on something like that. And obviously, if you have an automated process, it's going to save you a lot of cost in the future because it's, you need less staff for that. And then I was at a meetup with the Port of Rotterdam, and it was a couple of months ago. And they talked about how, like in supply chain management, if you want to ship a container from Shanghai to Rotterdam, the stack of paper that needs to be sent and transported, like in envelopes, was about like yay high. And it's huge. And it's so incredibly inefficient to do that. And imagine how much, it's difficult to explain how much you would save in such a way. The only thing is that people know that if you use blockchain in that way for supply chain management, you will save money. And it's the same in governmental processes with, for example, multi-party approval. You would save so much cost without all this paperwork. Got it.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there for a moment, just for a second. So you made a good point that it's likely that there's going to be cost savings in that, in a longitudinal frame, looking at it long term, but you can't really ascribe a specific value because it's case by case. But this is what I did want to ask you. Now, with regard to the universities, let's explore that a bit more, because you do a lot of the educational aspect. You certainly are focused on building out classes. What universities are you targeting? What's the plan in terms of future growth as well for the educational academic sector?
Yeah, it's a kind of funny story how it started, because I met someone at a networking event who was a professor at the Hague University of Applied Science, and the subject, we started a conversation about it, like she taught law, or she teaches law, and we started this conversation about blockchain, that she was getting into that, and I think a week later we decided I should go to the school, and I introduced myself to Jordi Jansen, who's basically the professor who thought up about the whole blockchain miner, because they set up a blockchain miner in the year before just as a trial, and this year it became a little bit more serious. And I started explaining to them what we do exactly, and I said, isn't it interesting that not only will those students in 3 months learn what blockchain is, but with their limited knowledge at this time, after 3 months of studying blockchain, they can also start designing their own smart contracts without even having coding skills. Right. And that's when we started talking and conversing about it. And so I got a specific group of students that I monitor, and those students are basically creating a manual how to use Unibright framework. And they're setting up a use case as well. They're designing their own workflow. They're designing their own smart contracts on the basis of the template multi-party approval. Mm-hmm. And I'm guiding them through that process. Mm-hmm. And as well, I gave a lesson and a small workshop to the whole group of students that did the blockchain manager. So these students that brought the laptops, and like I said before, in about 20 minutes, half an hour, they created their own smart contracts. And afterwards, and I'm sure you've seen it by tweets as well, like Data Dash, Nicholas Merton, who's connected to us, and he gave a Q&A in the hall downstairs, and it was very nice.
Yes, I called him afterwards to discuss that, and it was really exciting to see, because it was also aired through his YouTube as well, I understand. And the interaction was strong, that he was able to engage in another part of the world and have a genuine rapport and discussion with people across the globe. But in that context, what about scalability? What about the potential to scale this beyond just yourself, Ruud, so other parties can do it? Is there a plan for ambassadors like yourself in the team of ambassadors to explore this in other regions, given that those ambassadors are already situated right around the world? Or are there other parties considering taking this on and doing more in universities anywhere in the world?
Well, definitely education is a big part for us. So we will be releasing some more news about that in the future. But the Hague University of Applied Sciences will not be the only one. So that's one thing for sure, because like I said before, we started this Unibright Solutions because we feel that a lot of companies still need some help in trying to implement blockchain, and why they want to use blockchain, why blockchain makes sense. And obviously, why start at big companies when you can start with students right away? Because these students in a couple of years, we're still the innovators. I mean, it's still less than 1% of the people that understands blockchain. I mean, it's maybe 2% of the people that has cryptocurrency, but how many people that have cryptocurrency fully understand the implementation of blockchain? Right. And that is something that we're trying to do right now by going to the young people and not only explain blockchain, but also, okay, you can do so much right now by just going into a framework and start, creating smart business.
Sure. Now, by going there physically, actually engaging with the students, that's one thing. But have you also got some sort of online means to really be scalable? Because obviously there's only so much of your time and resources that you can commit personally. But is there some sort of system in place that Unibright's built whereby students right around the globe, for example, can go and learn specifically step by step what this technology can do? Have you got good access to good media for espousing that proof of adoption, that potential of adoption?
Yeah. Well, I did set up like a Telegram specifically for students. Obviously, it's not being used that much right now. It's just a kind of like a trial out, which I use with my students. And I just call it Unibright University. So people that will go to our Telegram group, they could log in there. And my whole point of that, and I hope in the future it will be a little bit bigger. So maybe this is like for all the students that are watching, go to our Telegram and ask to be in the chat. And this is basically for people that want to start using the framework. And there's a couple of ambassadors who are very familiar with the framework. They have more technical knowledge, and they can help you throughout the whole process of start using the framework. Now, the whole idea was for me to have this group develop organically, like within 1 or 2 years, and have all these students dropping in. And instead of having the talks about the technology or having the talks about what partnerships are coming, we have one specific group, Unibright University, that is specifically aimed at how do I use the framework and what kind of problems do I have so far.
Right.
Like I said, it's not a group with 1,000 people. It's just a couple of people right now. But we have assistants all the time there. So if they have any problems logging in or have any problems, okay, like for example, when you try to publish your smart contract, sometimes all the nodes are not connected properly, and maybe they need help because they take a picture and they say, well, what is the problem right now? We can help with those kind of problems if students have problems with that.
Got it. Okay, so you're already building in means in which you can spread the word more, and I would assume that will grow in time. Now, Germany itself, Unibright is a German project. Let's discuss that for a moment in terms of reputation, in terms of standing globally. Why do you think, or if indeed you do, that Germany is a country to really stand by when it comes to quality and when it comes to building something of value?
I think Germany has kind of a reputation of just standing for quality. And one of the things that I like was mentioned in your previous interview as well is the fact cryptocurrency obviously is so new, and that there was no specific regulation for where Unibright would fit in. And that's one of the things that I liked about Unibright before I joined. So that was actually, I didn't join Unibright before the ICO, but the fact that they talked with lawyers to actually, Unibright was a driving force in building the regulatory environment. And that's what I found most interesting, because there was no regulatory environment where they would fit in. So they had to build a specific regulatory environment by using Unibright. And that's one of the most interesting things that I liked about this project.
And it goes to show just how nascent we are in the space globally. But if Unibright were essentially leading the government and the lawmakers of the day by existing, that's quite exciting, because it just shows how you are at the forefront of this innovation in your country. How is it going, though, with regard to regulation? You know, are they proponents of utility? Are they, you know, jumping on board to support you?
Exactly. Well, we were basically a showcase on how to do it right. And we're very proud of that.
And are you finding so far, from the knowledge you have as one of the core members, that they are indeed supporting the conceptual ideas of utility, you know, the potentials of blockchain? Is that working in sync with your whole premise?
I haven't talked to the German government myself, so I couldn't say anything about that. But the fact that we joined Bundesblock, which is kind of like a German association for blockchain projects, and we just recently joined INATBA, it says something about the legitimacy of Unibright and the European Blockchain Foundation in Holland as well. So, like, we're very focused on connecting with different projects, and especially like the INATBA, which is an initiative by the European Commission. You know, it's a great initiative, and it will mean something good for the future.
Right, and that also implies standardization as well, I understand, so that you are also conforming to set standards for blockchain to make this more interoperable, global, and, you know, more achievable.
That's right. And the next coming years, and it'll be interesting for people to watch, because most people don't really know what INATBA is. Just to be sure, like the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications. And I think the beginning of April next month, there will be a big release. There will be a big event where all the new members, the founding member, because you have members and there's founding members, and we were one of the founding members. And it will be a large publicity event where people will actually know more about what INATBA stands for and what it will do. And it's one of the goals is basically to bring blockchain mainstream and to help people understand blockchain and to promote whatever we're trying to achieve by using blockchain.
Right. So essentially it's an alliance, you know, a membership in which everyone has the core vision. Now, what about partners? Because there's some big names as well with regard to Microsoft. If we talk about some others like Icon, IQ Lab, I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, Tola, NEM, and the list goes on. AmbiSafe is another one. So how important are these partners with regard to what you actually do? You know, what's the true value of these partnerships, and do they do anything at all? Because we have seen other projects where, you know, they just sell the partnership. You know, how can you tell us that it's not just a pitch?
Well, we worked with a hackathon with Microsoft, and I think with the specific, and I know like the guys from NEM, they gave a workshop in our office, and that was I think about a year ago, when we tried to implement NEM and become a partner. So it was not like we call them and say, okay, let's do a partnership and forget about that. We had a workshop at Toller as well before we actually announced the official partnership, and actually it was in Belgrade at Toller office when we announced our demo, and we were showing our demo for the first time. So for us, a partnership is not something that we announce out of the blue. It's just it has to give a certain value first.
Right. That's what I'm looking for. Do they have meaning reciprocally for both parties?
Definitely. Like, we won't announce a partnership before anything is solidified. And if there's something that we don't do, it's just make an announcement of an announcement, or just do any empty partnership, or like calling any company up and say like, hey, let's do a partnership just on paper.
Yeah,
you know,
got it.
Means something different. It means
yes, and I really respect that, because I see a lot in the space of that superficial, you know, call up and, you know, let's FOMO the market and let's make a superficial apartment for no reason. Now, obviously, you guys being German, you're quite serious about your project. You want the relationships to be real. But can you tell us anything about either the current partnerships with regard to what you do, or the ones perhaps coming? Give us some suggestions perhaps, or some hints at what is to come. I know you don't like to give FOMO, but I'm going to push for some at least. What can you tell us about what is planned for Unibright in the coming months?
Like I said, this is not my area. What I can say is that we reached a partnership with the Hague University of Applied Sciences, so we officially announced that as well. And so we're trying to be part of the blockchain miner in the future as well. For people that are interested in how they work with the blockchain miner, and maybe they want to go to the website bcec.nl, because it explains very much how the Hague University of Applied Sciences works with blockchain at that time. And that specific university, they try to connect with other universities as well in Holland, universities of applied sciences, and that's all that I can say about that. I don't know the specifics of the other partnerships. Okay,
well, I'll make sure I do speak to the right person, because I do want to find out more about those enterprise-related partnerships, since enterprise is the core part, the whole core of your system. Now, let's discuss a little bit more about the token for a moment. Now, I know you can't talk a lot about this. You're not in that field. You've recently released a token economic paper. I would advise all people to go and read it. I've read it several times. But I just want to talk briefly about utility as opposed to security. Now, how can we be sure that this is a long-term viable, true utility, Ruud? How can we know this can actually work?
Well, first of all, like the first thing that we talked about before is the fact that we spent a long time with our lawyers to make it an official utility token. But also, people can start using the framework for themselves and see how it works. And obviously, for the rest of the token model, I would still like say, okay, better to talk to the CEO and CTO about that, because obviously our regulatory environment is such that it might be better.
Right, got it. What I'm hearing from you is you need to make sure that the right people are speaking about this, because it's sensitive. So I really appreciate that, and I definitely will do it, because I've read into it, and I will say this from what I've read. I'm very interested to see how your token is going into an economy, a closed economy, and it's not going out. You are literally protecting this as a true enterprise utility. So for those who haven't read it, I do once again really encourage you to go and read it. I have to say it was one of the better reads I've personally done on this topic. So I'll make sure that description is in the description below for those who want to read it. And I do appreciate your honesty that you cannot discuss this too much.
Yeah. And that's also the reason why, like, there's nothing that I can add to that document. And for me, it's the perfect utility when I read it as well. You know, sometimes you read something, okay, that's perfect how it is written over there. So for all the people that are watching, please go read our token model. It's on the website, and it describes it perfectly how it works, and it's a very I haven't seen a token model like that, and it's very interesting.
I would agree, and I read it the first time, and I'll reiterate again without trying to shill. I read it twice because it really helped me understand. So perhaps it is a chance where you read it once, go back as a second reading. Now, to look at the pros, I want to discuss these more specifically. What are some of the core assets of Unibright? If we break them down, I've written some notes just to add to this. Now, experience is one, demos is another. We've discussed interface. So let's discuss experience, the fact that there's demos, and use cases as three topics of some of the pros.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with use case first. Okay. Obviously, we have a pilot with Deutsche Bahn. And that's something that when you had the interview with Martin and Stefan was not released yet. Mm-hmm. And that's something, we have a blog about that whole process as well, which was our pilot on doing a proof of concept on tokenizing their ecosystem. And just it's still like the largest railway system in Europe. And I would ask people to go read into that document because it's very interesting. We didn't use one of our templates for that, so it's just a case that we specifically designed for Deutsche Bahn. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the best one that they can pick right now in reading how we work with a company. Okay,
so you've customized one of your templates to suit. So just to clarify, you have 9 generic templates, but you're also able to customize to suit any need for any specific use case request.
Yeah. Okay. And that's why we have the Unibright solutions for companies that say, okay, I want to use blockchain, I want to use it for this and this and this. And that's why we have our own consulting section of Unibright called Unibright Solutions, where we can basically help people with specific needs.
Right. Now discussing that use case topic, is there some sort of price list transparency so that if I'm a business, I know what it's going to cost me for consultancy?
I think there's 4, 5, or 6 packages ranging from 1K to 100K, mm-hmm. and you can see all the requirements. For example, I don't know out of the top of my head, but there's options for workshop. There's telephone calls they can have, for example. But there's also us going to that specific company and giving out a workshop where we had 4 weeks in preparation, and that's what we did with Deutsche Bahn. We had 4 weeks of preparation, and we went there and well, not me personally, but we have 3 of our core members going there and giving them a workshop.
Okay. All right. So that's clear, obviously, that there is a means, something built in. Now, obviously, to do these things well, you need really good experience. And there's just simply no way that a company can lead this out if they haven't already had experience in the field rather than just blockchain. Does Unibright have that? And talk us through how you can evidence this.
Well, Martin, Stefan, and a couple of more team members, they've been working with ERP systems for about 20 years. So they have 20 years business experience. And that's how they got these former clients as well. So in that specific business, the ERP business, they're pretty well known. And this is also one of the reasons why I kind of like them, because you see their whole business history. And it gives you a lot of confidence that whatever they're doing with all these connections, they know what they're doing. And so they have a lot of experience with that.
Right. Now, in terms of growth, that's, I guess, one of the big indicators of success. Now, you are in the core team, so you surely would know something of this question. Do you sense that that the business is growing? Is that fair to say, given that you see, the dynamic every day, whilst you're decentralized, you still have engagement with the core team? Is it moving forward rather than stifled by, the challenges that it may face?
Yeah, we're definitely moving forward, meeting new clients. But like I said, that's not something that, I am a member of the core team, but I focus specifically on the ambassadors, and that's and like I said, it can be ambassadors that connect us to new clients, or it can be ambassadors that are more engaged in the community. So that's more my specific area.
Okay, well, talk us through that. How is the ambassadorship program? How many do you have at the moment, and has it been really productive so far?
Yeah, it's when I started working with Unibright, and that's my specific area where I started with, we had about 6 people. And Jack, you know Jack,
I know Jack,
was
yes.
First guys, and obviously the people were very enthusiastic because it was basically volunteers that offered to give their free time and be supportive on the project. And there were already a couple of people that connected us to business. So we set up the ambassadors kind of like the technical and business side and the more community-based side. And right now we have about 25 different ambassadors, out of which maybe 12 are very actively. And for example, Jack, who I just mentioned, who is the king of Twitter, and he connects so many people through us with Twitter, and that's how you know him as well. And yesterday I was at the meetup, and basically everybody knows Jack. And it's interesting how everything can go, because Jack, when he connects to Twitter, sometimes he talks to members of Dutch Parliament, and the members of Dutch Parliament told Jack about the European Blockchain Foundation. And Jack told me about the European Blockchain Foundation, and the next day I was sitting having coffee with the chairman of the European Blockchain Foundation. And this is how the whole ambassador section works. We just connect. And by these connections, we get more and more connections. And now the fact that we are part of the Unibright, European Blockchain Foundation, that got us the presentation at European Space Agency, but it also got me into several talks with the Dutch Parliament. Because the Blockchain Foundation, we went to the Dutch Parliament and talked about the regulation that are happening. And these are all started with the ambassadors. Right.
Now your ambassadors are being obviously, they're really passionate about Unibright. They obviously want to see things really emerge in the enterprise sector of business in terms of innovating with regard to what you're going to do. But what's the other reason for you? Why would they just do it as on a voluntary basis, or are they planning, is there some sort of incentivization system if they stay for the long haul? Is there something in that for them so that they are going to be rewarded for all of their diligence and their dedication?
Well, obviously, like most of them are token holders. I think we have one ambassador in the beginning who told me that he thought it was such a great solution that he wanted to help the project, but not be incentivized in any way, and just be able to, as he said specifically, that he saw this great solution happening and he would see it becoming very big in the future, but he doesn't want to be incentivized in a financial way to start promoting it. So he just did it out of interest. And very, very technical guy, very, very intelligent guy. But obviously, a lot of those ambassadors, they started as token holders, and then they started getting more familiar with the project, and they thought, okay, this is kind of a nice deal, and they wanted to help spreading the word, because obviously it's their incentive on Unibright becoming more familiar with people, and that did something to the value of their token. So
I see. It's quite remarkable. Sorry to interrupt, but it's quite remarkable because we often see real hype train style influencer movements where you see a whole bunch of influencers promoting a coin for a period of time, but then things die out. But with this organic approach you've taken, A, they're volunteers, B, they are typically hodlers who want to see this do well in the long term. So you have this very different approach. And so far what you're suggesting is that they are all working cohesively and it's successful. What's interesting also, I can tell you now on record that I also am not paid to do this interview, but I am a hodler of this coin. And it's important people know. So I've invested in Unibright. I am, I guess, an ambassador in that sense, and with regard to the concepts behind what a Unibright ambassador would mean. But it is an interesting, design, because one thing I have noticed, having spoken with your CEO and CTO, there's a real reticence to go and pay out for the benefits of influence, which tends to be something that we do see in other projects. Why is that, Ruud? Why is doing the organic approach so important to Unibright?
I kind of like the honesty behind it. Because it's also, I mean, it's not that like all the people that signed on in the beginning are still with us. Obviously, we've had a pretty, pretty big decline in the market, and we went down in price. And obviously the market has done some damage, like mental damage to some people that lost a lot. And some ambassadors that were very active in the beginning, not so active now. We've had ambassadors with us that are incredibly passionate already, like about a year. Like there's Ryan, he's part of Blockchain Beach in LA. There's Jonas, and he's the guy who's been with us for a long time. And he, I mean, he has a family, but like he made that video, and he spent such a long time montaging that video. And it's I remember him uploading it at 3 a.m., for example, when he had to work the next day. And there's Dan releasing an article on Publish 0x, and there's Thomas, he's a scriptwriter. And there's so many people just doing these things for us. We have Jan, who's an ambassador who connects us with larger companies, and I'm not going to say something specific about that, but there's something happening next month. But there's so many. We have Emmanuel and Ebenezer, who are guys in Nigeria, and Ebenezer is setting up like a meetup for Unibright in Nigeria, and that's on the end of the month. And there's so much value in that, and the guys are so enthusiastic. Yeah, I just have no words for that.
Well, it's a great plug. I mean, obviously, to all the ambassadors of Unibright, it's really commendable because you are volunteers. And as someone, as a teacher myself, that's my background. I want to commend all of you for committing to something you believe in, and you're not doing it just for money, quite simply. And obviously, you believe in the project itself long term. Now, one of the issues you did mention, and I do need to go here for a moment, you mentioned price. I know you're not comfortable, but I'm still going to ask it for the public. Now, there's always volatility. It's always an issue. But how do we graduate to a more of an indicator of the kind of robustness of the enterprise growth? How do we move to a discussion where we can anticipate at least some sort of semblance or connection between the token as it emerges as a true marker of enterprise growth and the ecosystem as it builds? We really need to address that, because right now we're seeing a lot of volatility in this.
Yeah. All I can say is that the proof is in the pudding. Once people will start seeing which companies have a real working product, which companies actually have a solid utility token that is a pure utility by law. And people are bringing companies and bringing clients, and the clients start using the framework. That's when we will see the real great use cases coming up. And then obviously I think we're one of those use cases, and it will come when we will release like those clients and people will start to notice. But obviously,
Now, Ruud, you are a token holder yourself. You tell everybody that you're a true hodler for this coin. Now, clearly, you're confident in this for the long term.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Social media to finish off. Tell us how we can engage more. How can we go and learn more about Unibright, whether that be Medium, whether that be Telegram? What's the best way to continue this beyond the interview?
The best way, I think, would just for people that don't know anything, I would of course suggest to either watch a couple of YouTube videos, definitely read the white paper, because my experience is that some people that start off in cryptocurrency, they choose like the easier way. But people that have questions, please come to our Telegram. If you have questions about the demo or about the university, address me personally, ask for me in the demo, and I will connect you to that part. And that's the thing that I try to get most out of this video. Not necessarily people that like to get them to buy the token or something, but just start using the demo and see how it works, see the solution that we have, and then make a decision. And then see already the working product that we have. Because it's not a demo anymore, because last week we actually had a release of being product ready, which means that we're out of the beta stage and now we have a working product. And how many companies can say that at this time?
Got it. So working product, demos, revenue already generating. You are already well known into your government, because obviously you existed for them to go and reconsider the laws that exist in your country for blockchain. You are well and truly situated in Europe, the EU, also within NAPA and NAPA. Globally, making your presence there. There's a lot going on, ambassadorships all over around the world. 2019 is just really the beginning, it would seem, for you. I would also assume from the things that you haven't told us, there's more partnerships to come. There's a lot more, I think, that I need to talk to the CEO and CTO about. But Ruud Huisman, it's been an absolute privilege speaking with you today to all things Unibright. Thank you for also letting us know about the endeavors you're making in the academic sector to spread the word of education, to let devs really start to engage. The most important thing is to remember this is a SaaS model. It's about software that makes it easier for enterprise to use blockchain in such a way that it optimizes their business of today. So thank you very much for letting us know, and hopefully we can catch up again in the future as you represent the ambassadors for Unibright.
Yeah, always happy to talk to you, Brad.
No worries, mate. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.